Hello everyone, welcome to part 1 of the full episode for Folie A Deux, and we start with the band's debut album, Take This to Your Grave. Released in 2003, it came out through Fueled by Rama, and it was produced by Sean O'Keefe. Thankfully, don't have much background here because the very brief history took a while, so I'll just start with the first song on the album. Said first song is Tell That Mick He Just Made My List of Things to Do Today, because you can't have emo Jason stuff in the early 2000s without overly long song titles. Anyway, the song is a solid start to the album with some really fun pop punk riffs and some consistent drumming especially. Pete Wentz's lyrics are pretty great, with good themes of depression, jealousy, love, all done with a whip-smart mentality. The performances are fun too, with Joe Trum's guitar work being great and Patrick Stump being a really good singer, as he always is. The production is a lot of fun, adding a lot of punch to the sound and helping out the sound quite well. The structure is benty and energetic, with a solid core sound that gets a lot added and really earns its runtime. My favourite song goes to Calm Before the Storm. Take This to Your Grave is a critically praised album for many reasons, mostly the strong songwriting and earnest charm, among other things. Next is the band's second album, From Under the Cork Tree, released in 2005. It was released through Island Records and it was produced by Neil Averon. Obviously the band were quite made after their debut, and they did a lot of touring and they put an acoustic EP of which made the Billboard 200. Quite the accolade. Anywho, this album starts with the song Our Lawyer Made Us Change the Name of the song so he won't get sued. Yeah, keeping that trope going, and so far a pretty good carry on from their debut. The process was a smoother one, and the band took more time with this album, and that's true of the riffs, which are pretty slick as they were before, and there's solid beats on the drums too. The lyrics focus more on the depression that comes with the newfound fame, which fits well with the fact that Pete Wentz attempted suicide due to those anxieties. I'm really glad he's okay. The performances are solid as well, with Andy stepping up his drum work, Joe being still solid, and Patrick's vocals sounding a lot better. The production, thanks to it being on a major label, is more polished and more focused, but not overly clean, which is good. The structure has a bit more drive as well, with catchy tunes aplenty and some really solid pacing handling too. My favourite song goes to 7 Minutes in Heaven, or in brackets, Atta Van Halen. Cork Tree is a slickly written and more emotive follow-up, even stepping into different waters at times, which works more than you would think. This is the band's third album, Infinity on High, released in 2007. It was put out through Island again. It was produced mostly by Neil Averon this time. So From Under the Cork Tree saw the band peak higher, getting award nominations from the likes of the Grammys and MTV, both equally prestigious. The process for this album wasn't a long one, but you wouldn't know it from listening. The opening and thankfully not cover track Thriller, despite the name featuring Jay-Z of all people, points this out. The album has a new musical direction, with the riff showing this off and having more versatility, and there's even some solos too. The lyrics have an interesting theme of the band addressing their fame in a nice way, almost a bit arrogant, but hey, that's how Pete Wentz do sometimes. The performances are again great, all solid, but Patrick stands out with his more confident sounding vocals this time around. He's just really stepped up his game here. The production is pretty great, making the willingness to experiment pay off a lot better than it should and keeping things controlled and clean. The structure benefits from the weird but welcome elements while still having a good pacing and good sound usage. My favourite song goes to The Takeover, The Break's Over. Infinity on High uses great guest stars, it has a solid new direction, it's also just a really fun time all around. And finally, for part 1 is the band's fourth album, Folie A Deux. Released in 2009, it was put out through the same label and produced by the same dude as last time. So there was a lot of touring to promote Infinity on High, but the main story behind Folie A Deux was that it was the band's last before their split. There's a fair bit of infighting with Joe and Andy feeling a bit left out, but no, we're here to talk about the album. It starts with the song Disloyal Order of Water Buffaloes, and this is clearly something new at the gate. The riffs are again versatile and messed with a bit more, still being energetic and even adding more piano too. The lyrics still have good wordplay to them, with more of a focus on the world around the band and American culture as well. The performances are again good, with Patrick still being a great vocalist and Andy's drumming being a standout as usual, and everyone's just quite good. The production does sort of overpolish some parts of the album, but it still fits a lot of the sound and it works in the new things well too. Speaking of, the experimentation is a big part of the structure, which has a good mix of pacing, and while it is a bit indulgent, it's really not that hard to enjoy. My favourite song goes to America's Sweethearts, but sweet spelled S-U-I-T-E like hotels. While the album can be a little bit much at times, the experimentation is fun, the songwriting is solid, and more of it works than you have been led to believe. And that'll do it for part 1. I'll see you possibly tomorrow for part 2, where I'll cover the last 3 albums from Save Rock and Roll to Mania. As for what's next, PPW vs AVW tonight. Got the card all set up, so yeah, not much else to really do. As always, thank you for watching, you're awesome, bye bye.